Good morning, my friends. Brian King, the Mindset King here. Back on the saddle after feeling pretty darn awful yesterday. There's actually going to be two aspects to this conversation. The first one, of course, is the title, which is positivity and happiness are not the same thing. I actually posted about this the other day, and it was in response to somebody's comment on the thread of another friend. And I think the question that originated the conversation was, can you be positive all the time? And my response was an emphatic, yeah, pretty much, and I don't want to say perfection, positive perfection, and that there's never a glitch in that way of approaching life. But the claim of one person really got me thinking. This person says, you can't be positive all the time because sometimes bad things happen to you and, you're just unhappy. And I stepped in and I said, wait a minute, let's take a look at this. I don't think positivity and happiness are the same thing. I think of positivity as a perspective. It's an attitude. It's a way of thinking. Whereas happiness is an emotion. And I would think that you would feel happiness in response to positivity in one case. But because I think of positivity as a perspective, it's your attitude, your belief about the essential nature of life. The essential nature of life is an abundant one where there are always solutions if you keep digging. There's always a way out of the tunnel of the cave if you are persistent and do the things you need to do to get the support you need, get other people's attitudes and ideas so that you can break free of whatever you're stuck in. And that's positivity. Case in point, yesterday I was laid up with a combination of vertigo and a really nasty headache, which pretty much had me in bed through the entire day. But one thing I made a point of is, and one of my cardinal rules, I've shared this before, is don't let your mind feel the way your body does. My body felt horrible, but I didn't want my mind to join in, because if I did, I would be depressed. I would be maybe a little suicidal. That sometimes comes along, not to the point of wanting to do something, but just like, man, I wish, I wish I would just fall asleep and die. This is terrible. I'm sick of feeling this way. And those thoughts tried to creep in. However, my commitment to a positive attitude would override those thoughts and say, wait a minute, Brian. We have committed our lives to being positive and solution focused and outcome driven. How can you do better in this situation? So the thoughts that I shifted to from that negative tendency is, this is only temporary. I've had days like this before. They really stink. We don't like them. Sometimes we wish they weren't here, but the reality is they are. So what can I do with my mind while I'm waiting for this to pass? One of the easiest things to do is gratitude. Count your blessings. I also spent time listening to inspirational videos, podcasts. Didn't quite do a little reading. When you got a bad headache, it's hard to use your eyes. But fortunately, there are other senses and there are other things at our disposal. So that's part one. Don't think that you need to feel happiness in order to be positive. Positive is how you approach it. Happiness might be a byproduct of it. Making sense so far? I hope so. It's still early and my coffee hasn't quite kicked in. The other part of this conversation is the idea that you need to fight the negativity. Because I asked a question this morning about, one thing, what are you proud of this week? Something you accomplished. And somebody mentioned that he was fighting against his negativity in service of being more positive. Now, some may think it is semantics. It doesn't really mean fighting, but it's important to examine our language anyway, because it might mean that we believe that we are in competition with something our brain naturally does, which is try to protect us by kicking up some acknowledgement of a perceived threat. Oh, this is dangerous. You need to keep that away from you as much as possible. And you kind of rear up and think that, okay, now you need to be emotionally or aggressive in your attitude somehow. But that's not necessarily so. Those who follow me for a while know that I've been a a devout follower of the Zen tradition for 20 plus years. And I've learned a lot about allowing, acknowledging, letting go, as opposed to trying to butt heads with something. So when negativity shows up in any way, you acknowledge that, hey, this is something my mind does. Being at war with it makes as much sense as being at war with myself. Negativity is just another point of feedback from the body, like your grumbling stomach might be. Are you going to go to war with your grumbling stomach just because it's getting your attention and you don't like the feeling? No. You acknowledge it, say, I wonder if that means I'm hungry. Maybe I should do something about it. You don't then go and body slam the fridge and tear the door open so that you can get some food. No, you don't need to approach that aggressively. You just need to acknowledge it, see what it wants. It wants to be fed, this grumbling in my stomach. I think I'll go get something to eat. So when negativity shows up, you can ask yourself the same question. What is this wanting? This negativity that says, life sucks and this is unfair. What is it wanting? Well, perhaps it's wanting some recognition, first of all, to acknowledge that, hey, it's there and it may have some genuine concerns, but it also wants the acknowledgement that it can get better. At least that's my take on it. So acknowledging it, recognizing it, but not feeding it. Not thinking that, well, man, if this is something must be negative because I'm right about everything when I perceive things. I have immaculate perception, don't I? So this must mean I'm seeing the truth of the world, that it stinks, that it's difficult. No, you're just getting some feedback and you can decide what to do with that feedback. I decided to acknowledge it and turn it into something positive, solution focused, not in a very resistant, aggressive way, but in an, okay, thank you for offering this negativity. I've decided I'm going to take a different path. And then I decide the positive thoughts I'm going to think, gratitude, goals I have for the day, things that I can pump into my brain, as I mentioned earlier, to help me maintain that positivity. Because when you think in terms of positivity and solutions, you think in terms of opportunities and options. And negativity does nothing but slam doors and keeps you safe because you're afraid. Now, yes, there's a time and place for that, but it is not a way of life. So I just wanted to share those little thoughts with you. Of course, this is just the beginning of the conversation. If you have any comments to make, please drop them below so we can continue this conversation. And if there's anybody you think that can benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. Until next time, this has been Brian. Thanks for being you.